if I go like this and I turn my body back, well, that looks like a backswing. And then if I actually go like this and I go like that,
right.
Well, now all of a sudden I'm in the follow through. All right, mate, so let's talk about finish position. I'm going to hold this and we're going to talk about the two main finish positions that you see with players. One would be like a hold off finish position here, kind of like a Tommy Fleetwood. Another one would be like a real long extended down the back number that you see with a lot of players as well. Or even something like a Rory is probably a very good modern day example of that, rather than trying to saw it off and finish in this structured position that you see a lot of pros try and work on.
Yeah.
So talk to it about the differences there.
I think the big understanding within those finishes is learning, okay, what's the purpose of each one? Like, what are we going to see with those differences? Now, with that one that's more of the sawed off, more of the Fleetwood style finish, that's going to work exceptionally well with the shorter clubs in the bag. Okay, wedges right through mid irons. We might lose a fraction of speed with that finish, but what we will gain is typically a little bit more control of that face angle. Okay, a little bit more directional control. So if we're looking at more of the ability to be precise with direction, we're tacking flags, finishing that way, learning the ability to be able to break and finish that way is really important.
Yeah, and I would say this pertains specifically really just to controlling the face a little bit more through impact, right? When you've got more loft with a shorter iron as such, your direction's not going to be too far off due to the upward effect of the golf ball striking the loft. And the sensation of getting this sawed off, controlled, punchy feeling is fine when the ball's on the ground. But we wouldn't really see too many players needing to do that with driver because that's more likely going to encourage a downward blow.
Absolutely. And it's going to be a lot more difficult to do with the speed of the driver anyways. Okay. Allowing the driver swing and even getting into the woods and long irons, allowing that finish to get to the back of the neck or head is a great way to ensure that we have accelerated the golf club, we have released the golf club, we haven't held anything back, which is essential with those longer clubs.
Yeah, and I really want to talk about one of the most common finish positions I see with players, especially with driver, amateur golfers, is they have this huge misunderstanding of what they see on TV relative to where they should finish. I think 7 out of 10 amateur golfers that come through think the most powerful finish is this one that is really around their body. You can see I just lost my balance there. And they go, well, Rory finishes with his chest over here. But if you look at the position of the club, it's vertical. My arm is tucked. I've lost my grip on my lead hand, which we see a lot, right? Versus Rory, it's a time and place. The club would have released, then it would move into this position here. So even though the body and the chest might look in a similar rotation, the arms are completely different. And that just talks about that release that you were talking about through the moment of impact. So talk a little bit more about that.
So the lead shoulder is really important here. Understanding the role of this lead shoulder as we go through. So if you just held the golf club in that left hand, as you go through the swing, what we need to make sure is the body's rotating and extending, and we are going to be adding in some rehinge. As you can see here, this elbow isn't chicken winging behind you.
No.
Okay, and this is what we're going to see with a lot of amateur golfers, is that this lead elbow pulls away from the golf ball. And when this happens, there's actually a lot less of the rehinge happening within the wrist. Now, what we'll see within a player like Rory is he's going to use the body, he's going to rehinge. This shoulder blade anchors the shoulder, so we'll actually see a rotation within the shoulder, and we're going to see the elbow softening up. In this case, if we take a look at that face on video, when you're in the finished position, the elbow is technically still in front of your body.
Yeah.
Okay. The chest is more rotated, but we'll see that the elbow is still a lot more in front.
Yeah. One of my favorite drills, and it's a feeling and it's also a reference, is like you said before about the club where it touches you.
Yes.
Right? So you'll notice a lot of amateur golfers, and you can test this one out at home, guys, is you hit a shot, if your club is all the way over here, well, there's a good chance that your arms have started to break down the structure, you pulled it around the corner, and your body's not moving as well. And simply just trying to achieve the outcome of getting the golf club as an extension, almost just touching the left trap here,
Yes.
that would encourage a more active club head release through the ball. For a lot of players that do this, they're slicing it, so that's definitely going to be of benefit to them. But then also into a stronger, more balanced position where we generally see the chest is facing more towards the target and the hands in front. Now, the majority of the time that I get players to do this, they'll go, "Oh, it feels like I'm finishing over here."
Yes.
We chuck it on camera. The big misconception then starts to appear is that their reference of feeling over here is actually here.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Because they're looking where their head is, their eye line straight, but they look at the chest, now all of a sudden it's pointing over there.
Exactly right.
And what I always do is I go, well, the golf swing within reason is a matter of keeping the hands relatively in front of the chest with a slight lifting and rotation of the arms and the wrists with the hinge. If I go like this and I turn my body back, well, that looks like a backswing. And then if I actually go like this and I go like that,
Right.
well, now all of a sudden I'm in the follow through. And that's all the way around my body, but at no stage did I pull those around my body.
Exactly. The way that I often coach that within the longer irons and the driver, very similar to what you said with trying to get the shaft onto that left trap, I talk about pointing the butt end to the target.
Oh, that's a great one. Yeah.
For the players that we will see that pattern of pulling the arms to the left, that big chicken wing going through, as they learn to release the golf club and point the butt end to the target, we see that rehinge taking place. They square the face and they flight it a lot higher.
Yeah. The number one comment I get when I give players this exercise is it feels like I'm casting it.
Yes.
Do you get that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what would your response to that be?
Their thought of casting is accelerating. Okay, it's releasing. That's what we want to think. We've stored up this energy in the backswing.
Yeah.
Why hold on to it? Okay,
Yeah.
it serves us no purpose. We're not going to be able to attain that speed that we all want. Get rid of that speed. We'll feel more of a whip, and that motion's really going to accelerate the golf club and deliver it in a much better way.
And I think that is one of the biggest misconceptions in the golf swing, and I get it all the time when I'm coaching players in person, is they look at this position as the golf club's coming down into impact with the pro, the hands in front, and they think they've dragged this in, but that is just an effect of keeping their hands in front of their chest as they rotate. Now, you need to let that club unload. That feeling of release from the top of the swing, if your hands are in front of your body, you will get back into a stronger impact position than you've ever been in, as opposed to trying to drag it in. Because as I do this, if we then stand up, well, essentially I haven't unloaded anything. I've actually lost any sort of loading of the wrists, and my arms have just lost structure.
Yes.
So the sensation of letting that club head through the ball, which is going to be quite counterintuitive for a lot of players, as you get that chest finishing tall, will give you that beautiful strong finish with a player such as Rory.
Yeah, absolutely. So just knowing that it's okay if you're a player that has more of that full finish, okay, that's typically going to match up with, if anything, a little bit of a higher ball flight.
Yep.
Okay. If you're a player that's really struggling to create height, maybe learning to adopt more of that feeling in the finish.
Yeah, so I would say when it comes to the finish positions, the sawed off low, let's say that's for a lower flighted controlled iron, if you're looking to even just work on punch shots or something similar.
Absolutely.
And then really at the end of the day, with nearly every other club, I would say the majority of golfers, as a reference, should try and get themselves into a position where they're tall and the golf club butt is pointing towards their target in this position. The hands are relatively in front of the chest, and then they are balanced.
Exactly.
Great, so let's put it all together. Now, for me, I tend, through the golf ball for our reference, right, is I tend to get a little bit too much of that happening. So I'm gonna work on a little short iron punch here relative to what I'm at. And for me, that feels great. And I can really, for a high level player here, feel that the chest is kind of moving nicely in sync with the end of the handle there. Let's pop one down there.
That's pure.
And for a little short punchy wedge, like that launched low, came out hot, felt great off the face. Cheers. Nice.